Hi, everybody, and welcome to our second module of Authentic Africa with Lion Dog African Safaris. If you've watched the first module, you will know what this is about. My name is Andrea. I am the owner and operator of Lion Dog African Safaris, and I am presenting you with 6 different modules on how to best tour Africa. I'm doing these video recordings because the challenging situation currently has me stay at home and work from home, like most of you as well. Even though at this time of the year I'm usually on the road or in the air, presenting Africa to the people all over the place in their hometown or close to their hometown. So I can't do that right now. So I want to stay connected with you on doing it this way in a video presentation. Last time I just introduced everything. I introduced myself. I told you that I used to live in Africa, work in Africa, and that I'm going back quite often to enjoy the colorful continent, but also to nurture business relationships over there. I'm working with the African suppliers directly, so I don't use any wholesale companies or third-party suppliers or so most of the time. There's some situations where I need to, get the help from someone else, but most of the time, I want to say 99% of the time, I use the suppliers directly in Africa and book the tour directly in Africa for you. Today, we're going to talk about Game Safari, and I'll tell you more about it. I have a few slides and a PowerPoint presentation, which I want to share with you. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the presentation. So just give me one moment. So I'm sharing my screen with you. Here you go. And I will show you what I have. So here we go. If you think adventure is dangerous, try routine. It is lethal. Going to Africa is absolutely an adventure, and I think it is definitely worthwhile considering it for everybody, really. There's something to do for everyone. But the number one reason why people go to Africa or to visit sub-Saharan Africa is to see the game over there, to see the animals, to see all the African wildlife that there is to see. And that's a really good reason, because we don't have that luxury here in North America. So going to Africa to see the animals is a perfectly fine reason. There's different ways of how one can do that, and I'll introduce those to you today. So safari can be done in different ways. Most of our safaris are private guided tours. That means you do not share your safari vehicle. In this case, this is the safari vehicle. You have the guide to yourself. The guide will stay with you and with your vehicle for the time that your tour is taking place, and you keep him with you the entire time. You don't have anybody else in the vehicle with you. It is just you and your party. When I say your party, you can bring your friends and family. Typically, a safari vehicle holds up to 6 people. There's enough room for 6 people in the vehicle, so everybody has their own seat and has a window seat. The windows can be opened, but also the top of the car can be popped up, and you can look out, and there's enough room for 6 people to stand up and look around. If you're only the 2 of you, you will have the entire vehicle to yourself. If it's 4 of you, you have a little bit of more room because there's 2 empty seats. If it's the 6 of you, you will comfortably fit into this vehicle. There will be 1 seat open next to the driver that is not occupied. So this is how we typically do our safaris. There's also a way of doing small group tours, and I used to do some of the small group tours lately, which is a lot of fun. It can be challenging and interesting because not all personalities get along very well. There may be some differences and some challenges, etc. So that's why we do not do many of those. If there's a group that has a special interest, or if there's a situation where it warrants to organize a small group tour, I will do it, but that's not typically what we do. We also do not do large group tours like in this third picture here, where you have 30, 40, 50 people in one bus. It's a lot of people. You have typically one driver and one guide there. And if you have a question and you're not right there in the face of your guide, your question will not be answered. So you're kind of at the mercy of everyone else. And that's not how we see a good safari being done. We have seen these big buses in the Serengeti driving around. I tell you, they don't get to the spots where some of the animals are. They will not make it to those spots. They are limited, to the big roads, and yeah. So we do not do these large group tours because I don't think it's the way to spend your time on safari. You spend a good amount of money, and I don't think that's a good way to spend your money. So we will stick mostly to the private guided tours, which is the best way to experience Africa and to go on a good game safari. Now, there is a difference between a fly-in safari and a drive-in safari, and somewhat the word already suggests what it is. On a fly-in safari, we use small aircraft, the really small ones like here in this top left picture. We use them in Botswana and we use them in Namibia as well. Those are chartered private aircraft that take you from one spot to the other. In some of the other areas, we use bigger aircraft. Some areas that are more frequented use up to 12-seater aircraft. What does that mean? On a fly-in safari, you are going to see an area that is either very remotely placed and it's hard to get to because it's far away, or there's not even a road to go to those places. And the only way to get there is in an airplane. So we'll put you on an airplane and we will fly you into the area that you are about to see. And then you will spend your time at the venue that you've chosen for your safari. You'll stay at that venue for a number of days. And from that place, you will then, so we're talking about this one here right now. So sorry about flipping, but the fly-in safari, you stay at your venue for 2 to 3 nights and do all your safari from that venue. So you go out in the morning. It's typically 2 activities a day. You go out in the morning for a safari. You come back to your venue. You spend, lunchtime, noon when it's really hot at your venue, and then you go out again in the afternoon to do another game drive, or to maybe go do a walking safari, or even skip the afternoon and do a nighttime safari. That would be your fly-in safari. When you're done at that spot that you are at, you would take the aircraft to your next spot. Could be a small aircraft like this, could be a bigger one, and you go to the next venue that you've chosen before in a different area, most likely, and you spend your next 2, 3, or even 4 nights at your next venue. Here's an example of a fly route map. So you would start somewhere. This is, for instance, in Botswana, where we do a lot of fly-in safaris. You'd start in Johannesburg. So these guys have gone to Kruger before, and they're doing a driving here. But then they chose to do a fly-in safari. So they would fly from Johannesburg in an aircraft to Victoria Falls, for instance, spend some time there. Then they would fly into the northern Chobe National Park, where there's an area, it's called the Northern Enclave, where there's no roads leading there, but you can go on safari there. So the aircraft takes you into that area to an airstrip, and then the lodge will pick you up at the small airstrip, and you will spend 2 or 3 nights in that lodge exploring the area. And then your next flight will take you from that northern enclave, it's called Linyanti, and you would fly into the Okavango Delta, for instance, and spend your next 3 or 4 nights in the Okavango Delta, do your safari there, and then from there you would go onto your small aircraft and back to Maun. That's just as an example. So that would be a fly-in safari. Fly-in safaris are quite a bit more expensive than the other type of safari I'll talk about, the drive-in safari. And the reason for that is that not only guests need to be flown to their venues, also supplies like food, staff, anything that needs hardware or anything like that needs mostly to be flown into the area, which kind of raises the costs of those camps, of those venues. And the flight itself is also more expensive. So fly-in safaris are typically a higher mid-range cost and reach into the luxury range on a budget wise. So fly-in safaris are more expensive than the drive-in safaris. Drive-in safaris, we also call them gypsy safaris because you're on the go quite a bit. Here's a picture representing that. You are in one of these pop-up roof vehicles on your own with your driver, with your own vehicle, and you're driving from spot to spot. So on a drive-in safari, for example, you start somewhere. Say, for instance, in Tanzania, you would land in Arusha at Kilimanjaro International Airport, and then you would start driving, and we would see multiple game parks in the area, driving from spot to spot. And your drive is your safari. Sometimes when you transition from one park to the next park, you will go through some villages, you can have a cup of coffee, maybe visit a market or something like that. But you will do that all driving in your private vehicle with your guide. And then once you're in the game park, you will be driving from venue to venue, and your drive will be your safari. Often we only spend one, maybe 2 nights at one venue, and then you move on because you do your game drive around the venue that you are at, and then you start exploring further away, and the drive takes you to your next venue. So even your venues may only be 40, 50 kilometers away. You can spend all day on safari watching the animals going from one venue to the next. Okay, so you spend only 1 or 2 nights at those venues, and then you switch to the next venue. But you can also see multiple parks. You can go from one park to the next. You see different ecosystems. You see different types of animals because they're maybe concentrated differently from one park to the next. A different type of animal maybe that you'll be able to see, etc. And that's what you do on the drive-in safari. We do drive-in safaris mostly in Tanzania and the Northern Park Circuit. Okay, so that's the difference: drive-in safari versus fly-in safari. And in the fly-in safari, we utilize small aircraft to get from venue to venue, and we're using the lodges and their vehicles and their guides on game safari or walking safari or nighttime safari. Whereas if you're on a drive-in safari, you have your private vehicle, you have your private guide that drives you from park to park, from venue to venue, shows you the animals, and takes you on safari that way. So what's the difference in the safari vehicles we are using? Because there's a difference there as well. Again, the drive-in safari has a pop-up roof, four-wheel drive, heavy-duty suspension vehicles. So these vehicles are made to go through tough roads. Sometimes they go off-road as well. There's an area in Tanzania where you can go off-road as well. And again, there's enough room for 6 people in the vehicle, but we also use them for 2 or 4 people in one vehicle. The pop-up roof is really quite nice because you can stand up. If you've driven already a couple hours or so, you can stand up. You can stay standing even while the vehicle is driving, and you can watch 360 degrees all the way around and take pictures of the animals. Sometimes they come really close to the vehicle, and you can look out of the window in the car here, or you can stand up and look out from the top. So those are the drive-in safari. Again, not shared. It is your vehicle with your guide and just your safari party. During fly-in safaris, you will share the vehicle with other people at the camp. We're utilizing the vehicles and guides from the lodge. And if there's another couple or another, 2 friends or something that also want to do the same game drive as you want to do on the same day at the same time, there is instances where you may have to share the vehicle. Nowadays, in those fly-in camps, because they're high mid-range level and go into the luxury level, the people in the lodges and the staff have recognized that the maximum number of 4 is actually the best way to experience a safari. So if you're a couple that goes on safari, you may have another couple on the vehicle. If you're a group of 4 that goes on safari, you will likely not share the vehicle. It will probably be the 4 of you on the vehicle going on a safari. If you're a party of 6, because these vehicles can also carry 6 people, they will not take you apart. They will not, split you up and have you, not spend the safari together. You will most likely be the 6 people on the same vehicle enjoying the same type of safari. These vehicles can have up to 9 people on the truck. Again, it's very, very rarely that they do put 9 people on the truck. If you are a group of 8, for instance, you may be 8 of you on the same truck, but they will not mix the groups if you are already a group of 4 on the vehicle. Okay, so these are open-sided, quite nice vehicles. In Southern Africa, they often have a roof on top, a canvas roof, because the sun can be quite strong, and just to protect you a little bit from the sun rays from above, to keep your brain at a normal temperature and able to enjoy all the wildlife. But other than that, they are open, very, very safe. People sometimes ask, oh, am I going to be attacked by wildlife or so in the vehicle? As long as you listen to the guide and do what they say and stay inside the vehicle, you are safe. Don't try dangling your hands out or your feet out. That's when the animals start recognizing that there's actually people on the vehicle. Otherwise, they will only see it as one unity. Big vehicle, kind of loud and stinky, and they know those vehicles, and they will not do anything. But if you start, hanging out your appendices or something like that, then they may be able to recognize that you are a person, and that's not good. So listen to the guides, stay inside the vehicle, keep your arms and legs to yourself, and you will be safe and fine. And one essential part of your safari are the safari guides. And again, I want to explain the difference between the drive-in safari and the fly-in safari. On the fly-in safari, you will have the guide from the lodge. So the lodge or the venue that you stay at will have a guide ready to take you on a game drive, on a walking safari, on a nighttime safari or something like that. And you may, depending on the schedule, you may switch guides from one activity to the next. Often the lodges and the venues will try and keep the same guide with you because you start making, building a relationship with them, you get to know them, they'll tell you stories about themselves, etc. And it's just nicer to have the same guide for different activities, and they will do their best to accommodate that. But it's not always possible. So it's possible that you will have a different guide on different types of safaris throughout your stay in that same camp on a fly-in safari. When you go on a drive-in safari, you will have one guide for the entire time. So he'll pick you up in the morning at the lodge in Arusha or at the airport or wherever you are, and he will take you on your drive-in safari, and he will stay with you the entire time until he drops you off again in Arusha or at the airport or at an airstrip, where you will fly away or drive away to start a new component of your tour. So your safari guide on your drive-in safari will stay with you from the first part of your safari until he drops you off for your next part or for your flight home. That's actually quite nice because as also with the fly-in guides, you start building a relationship and you get to know them, and you hear their stories, you hear about their families, you hear about maybe their religion or what their political views are, etc. You can ask them any questions, and you will learn to appreciate what those guides know. They know so much. They undergo an official education. A guiding school or being a registered licensed guide takes 2 years at school in Tanzania and an additional practical year. In Botswana, it's also 2 years plus some working experience to become a licensed professional guide. Those guides know almost everything about the ecosystems. They know everything about the animals. They can spot these animals from far away. They recognize the foot tracks. They recognize bird calls. They can see so far. They just amazing. So they have so much knowledge, and they're quite entertaining, and they are a very, very important part of your safari. Most people make friends with the guides, and they kind of grow fond of them, and sometimes they even stay in connection, be after the safari, maybe send a Christmas card or greeting or something like that from home, and just have that, almost a little bit like a friendship or so with them. There are situations, not very often, but it does happen, where you, for instance, you go on a drive-in safari and you just don't click quite well with your guide. There's something just not right. You feel like it's not that great. In that case, you can let me know. I'm always connected with you and also with the suppliers, and you can let that make that known, that there's an issue or there's something not quite right, and we can get you a new guide. So you don't feel stuck. You're not going to be stuck with your guide if there's something that's not working out quite well. So all it needs is some communication and you letting me know, and then we can do something about it, because we recognize and we know the safari guides make or break your safari. So the quality of the guide has a big influence on the quality of your safari. Very, very important to know. Now I want to show you a little bit what to expect on your venues. You heard me say earlier that you will choose some venues. So when I work with you on tailoring and customizing your tour, you will get the opportunity to pick some venues, and I want you to know what you pick or what you are about to pick. So we have different categories of venues, and I'm going to start with the permanent tented camps. So these are camps with tents. We call it glamping. As you can see, they are fairly big. You have a nice big living area here. You have, when you walk through your tent, at the end of it, or just at the very like side or very end, you will find your bathroom. So all these tents have an ensuite bathroom. And like in this one, for instance, you see that the floor or the platform that these tents are erected on is solid. So it's often like a wooden platform. Sometimes it's concrete, but most of the time it's some kind of a wood structure that the tent is erected on. And in this case, for instance, your bathroom is at the back here. You see a water tank here. Solar panels here to give some electricity and light inside the tent. So there's 24-hour electricity in most of those camps. Hot water, cold water, flush toilet, your shower, everything there. Those are camps that are permanent erected in an area. That also means they have a central area where you have your dinner, breakfast, sometimes lunch. Sometimes they have other amenities like, for instance, a swimming pool or so that you can enjoy during the hot hours of the day, or after a dusty safari, you come back, you can enjoy a dip in the pool, or some swimming or something like that. Not all of them have that. Some of them do, some of them don't. It depends on where they are, where those camps are. But those are the permanent tented camps. Biggest difference is that they are there to stay. They're very permanent, proper plumbing, structures, a restaurant area, little bar, sometimes a swimming pool where you can spend some leisure time there. All of these camps also have what we call bush TV. It's right here. Usually the TV gets turned on before dinner around 6:30 when the sun goes down, and you can sit and socialize with the other people at the camp. Because even though I'm not very close to you, I heard some of you kind of huffing and puffing about being privately guided. The thought of spending 14 days with your husband on safari and just the two of you with your guide, I know that can be stressful, but you do have the opportunity to socialize with other guests at your camp every evening. When the bush TV is turned on, fire is on, you can have a glass of wine outside, sit together with other travelers, exchange some stories, compare lists of what you've seen, etc., how your day went, and where you headed, where you're coming from, etc. So you're not just going to be on your own. You do have the opportunity to meet other travelers, to meet other people, talk about your experience, etc. So at the camps, you will always have other people enjoying some time in the evenings or even at breakfast in the morning where you can meet up and make some friends, etc. So these are the permanent tented camps. Another type of camps I want to introduce to you is the mobile tented camps, and we use those typically on our drive-in safari in Tanzania, because when we are in the Serengeti, we will go where the Great Migration is. The Great Migration is this mega herd of wildebeest that circles through the Serengeti, and they're every month or every quarter of the year, they move into a different area of the Serengeti, and so do these camps. So the mobile tented camps move with the migration. They are not as permanent as it suggests already as the permanent tented camps, but they are quite comfortable. They're almost as comfortable as the permanent tented camps. The plumbing is a little bit more rudimentary, as you know, they have to bring the water in, they have to heat the water up for you so you can take a shower. But all those tents do have ensuite bathrooms. You have a flush toilet, you have a shower with hot and cold water, a hand washing basin with running water, etc. The difference is that if you want to take a shower, you will have to tell the staff so they can get the hot water ready for you. In the past, we used to talk about bucket showers where, you know, a bucket is filled up with hot water and then it's pulled up to the top of the tent, and then when you're inside, you open your tap, and then the hot water runs from the bucket into your shower, and with gravity you can shower. Lots of camps still do it that way. It's quite something new and very unique to safari, and it's an experience for sure. Some camps kind of go away from that, and they provide pipes. So they come from a central hot water supply. You still have to tell the staff when you wanna take a shower, because then they take the pipe from the central hot water, they connect it to your pipe in your tent, and then they will have to drain the cold water out, and then you can take a shower with hot water. So you can still have everything you have with the permanent tented camps. You have your hot shower, you have your cold shower if you want, flush toilet, hand washing basin, proper beds, and nice setup in your tent, big tents with proper beds and duvets and pillows, etc. It's just in a mobile version. There's a central area as well where you have dinner in the evening, breakfast in the morning, and there's also campfire outside before dinner and then after dinner if you want to socialize with the other people at the camp. The mobile tented camps, again, we use them most in Tanzania and the Serengeti because they're moving around with the Great Migration, and you'll find them at different time of the year in a different section of the Serengeti. Mobile tented camps are part of our low, mid-range, and economy range on safari. Permanent tented camps are kind of mid-range to higher mid-range, and they can even go up into the luxury range. Okay. We also have lodges in Africa, just as we have here in North America. Stick and brick building, permanent buildings, different styles, different setups, kind of depending on what area you are. But in a permanent structure, and often those camps have a little more amenities. So you'll have a bar area, you may have a fireplace inside, which you don't have in the camps, but often there's a swimming pool. It's little cottages that you know, are spread out around the main area where you go and to your room, a little bit away from the main area. So those are lodges. You find them all over Africa, and we do integrate them into safaris as well. They're kind of a neat historical building sometimes in some parts of Africa. For instance, in Uganda, this lodge down here is in Uganda, where you can see some colonial styles buildings, or the more modern buildings we see in Tanzania. We see quite a few new lodges built that have a mix of stick and brick, and then your cottage or the part that you stay in, your room, has tent walls, which is a nice combination of stick and brick, and then giving you that safari feeling with the tented walls, but a very solid structure around it. So these are new lodges, but again, you can find quite a few lodges that have been there for a long time, and that give you a little glimpse into history as well. So those are lodges. We do have mid-range lodges as well as luxury, low mid-range, all the way up to luxury lodges. We don't find them very much anymore in the economy range, and that has often to do with where those lodges are. So they may have a comfort level in the building itself in the lower mid-range, but they may be priced in a higher mid-range because they are in an area that's hard to get to, or that's very, very popular, like Ngong or Crater or something like that. So low mid-range all the way to luxury range is where we can offer lodges all throughout Africa. And another way of spending your time on safari is camping. And Canadians and North Americans in general are quite excited about going camping, and you shouldn't have to miss out when you're going on safari. Bivouac tenting is becoming quite popular for the pricing reason. In Tanzania, on our drive-in safaris, we can offer bivouac tenting in the economy range. In Botswana, we can also offer bivouac tenting, a drive-in safari. There, we're looking at the mid-range comfort level for you. The difference is that you will have your dome tent, just as in this picture here. You have a fold-out cot inside your dome tent, sleeping bag, pillow, little side table with maybe a solar lamp or a little torch or something like that inside for lighting. Those tents are tall enough for you to stand up, stretch out, to get dressed, etc. But you'll have to leave your tent to go to the washroom. So we bring an eco toilet, which also has a bucket shower. You can see the bucket up here. And when you go camping with Lion Dog African Safaris in the Serengeti, for instance, you will get a Campy on your tour. So you'll have your guide taking you on safari, going, on game drives throughout the day. And then you have a Campy that stays behind, sets up your tent, sets up your chairs and table, and cooks your meals. All the food is brought along, all your drinks are brought along. And when you come back from your safari, your meal is ready, your TV is on, fire is lit. All you have to do is sit down, enjoy your meal, have a relaxing drink, talk about the what you've experienced throughout the day, etc. And you do all of that in the great outdoors, just like camping, just like you would here. When you go bivouac tenting, you do not share your camp or your campy or your guide with anyone else. So it's your group that will camp together. If we are using special campsites, those special campsites are a piece of land set aside by the government for camping use. That means there's nothing there. Everything is brought in and everything is taken out. So all your food, their eco toilet, everything is brought out. There are public campsites available in Botswana where we do camping, as well as in Tanzania, where you do use facilities that are maintained by the government. So there could be a building, where the campy can cook your meal in a building because it's maybe raining or something. There are shower buildings where you can take a shower. There are washroom buildings where you can go, use a flush toilet inside, etc. Those are public campsites. Some of them are very well maintained and some of them are not that well maintained, and we try not to use those. So in those cases, I would always recommend a special campsite. If you want to stay by yourself, you would want to use a special campsite. If you use a public campsite, there will be other people around, there will be other people using the same facilities, etc. That's the difference. The bivouac tenting in special campsite can sometimes be just as much money as low mid-range because of the special areas. We cannot leave the campy by himself out there in the wilderness. It's not allowed anymore by the government of Tanzania and the wildlife authorities for safety reasons. So that's why we have to have two people as support staff, which will make it a little bit more expensive than the public camping, where the public campsite is set aside and fenced, etc., where the camper can be safe during the day, waiting for you to come back, which is not possible in the special campsites. I hope this makes sense. Send me questions if I'm leaving anything unclear about the different venues, etc. Okay, so that's bivouac tenting. I mentioned before that you have the ability to take more people on safari with you, and often it is either brother and sister with their spouses, or friends that you're taking on safari with you. That's fun, and it's always nice to spend the day with someone else and share your experience, etc. What I urge you to do is have a little bit of a meeting, a little bit of soul searching before you guys book your safari, because different people have a different understanding of safari. Some people love to go on safari, love to see as many animals as possible. They drive around. Oh yeah, there's a zebra. Oh yeah, there's a giraffe. Oh yeah, there's a migration. Let's keep going. And some people just want to take their time. They want to stop. They want to see what's going on. They want to spend some time with that herd of elephants. Maybe they have some young, and it's cute to watch, and they're doing something silly or something, and you just want to stay put and watch them. And those two characters, they don't mix very well on safari. If you know about it beforehand, you can make compromises. You can discuss it with your friends. If you only do that on safari, then maybe room for conflict, and it's a little late to discuss it on safari, and you may lose your fun, or you may lose quality of your safari because of that. So have that discussion beforehand. When you're going on a drive-in safari with your private guide, you can stop wherever you want to and spend as much time as you want to with a group of animals. Maybe you just came across a lion taking down a zebra, or a group of lions taking down a zebra, or there's, like I said, there's elephants that are doing something fun, or you want to just follow those giraffes or something like that. You can take your time, and you can spend as much time as you want to in one spot. Just communicate that with your guide, and he will make that happen. Or you want to change your angle to take a different picture, or the baby is moving around, and you want to follow it a little bit or something like that. You can do that. If your friends or family members, they're kind of getting impatient and they want to keep going, it's not fun for them to sit there and watch the same animal for an hour and a half. But it's also not fun for you if you do want to enjoy that hour and a half with that animal, and you want to ask more questions, and you want to learn more about it. So have that conversation before you go, because that will mitigate a lot of stress on safari, and makes it so much more enjoyable for all of you. So just have that conversation. And that is pretty much it for the logistics on Game Safari. I know it's a little bit dry, but it's all those things that you need to know in order to make a good decision of what you want to do. On our next module, we will talk about different areas on safari. And I will introduce a few different parks, and I will introduce the uniqueness of each park and explain to you what those parks are. And then we can you can make a decision of where you want to go on safari. So here I am again. I hope you enjoyed this little talk. I hope I didn't take you too long. You can rewatch it as many times as you want to, and send me questions if I haven't answered any of your concerns, or if there's anything that came up, and let me know what you want to know. Next time, again, we talk about safari parks, safari areas, and how we can put them together. And oh yeah, one more thing I want to say. All those different venues, all the different comfort levels I talked about, and I will explain the comfort levels a little bit more in one of the future modules. We can mix them all up. So you can decide if you want to do some time in a permanent tented camp, a little bit tough time in a mobile tented camp. If you want to try some bivouac camping, for instance, for a night or two, we can put that in there, and we can mix it up for you. So you don't have to say, oh, I have to do all just lodges, or I have to do just camping. That's not the case. We can listen to what you want to know or what you want to do, and we can mix it up, and we can tailor it to what you want to do and how you want to experience your time on safari. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you've learned a little bit, and I hope it gets you excited to learn more about safari and to learn more about how we can make this tour happen for you and make it exactly what you want this tour to be. Okay, send me an email if you have questions. Send me a note on Facebook. Tune in to the website www.liondogafricansafaris.com. There's a contact button as well where you can send me questions. Sign up for the newsletter so you can get the next module directly into your inbox on Saturday morning with the weekly newsletter. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Keep your distance. Stay connected with friends and family and your community, with your local stores, with your local tour operator. And I hope to see you again. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.